Story 1. If I were to be absolutely honest, it would be the depth of my depression. My wife is great, but I don't think she can handle this. She doesn't know that I spent months late last year and into this one crying every single day. I would find a few minutes to myself in the shower, in the bathroom, or just a few moments at work, and I just think about how hopeless things were and how unhappy I was. I keep fighting the depression, and most days are better than bad, but the bad days are soul-crushing. I keep putting up a happy face because of our kids, but I'm afraid that this is going to crash me someday. Story 2. Sometimes I watch shows we're watching together without her because she is super extroverted and wants to talk to me during. It usually starts as us discussing plot details and always ends up evolving into her trying to give an entire TED Talk. I enjoy having short exchanges of thoughts about the plot, but I prefer to watch and enjoy the story and then discuss it after. We've talked about it and she understands how I feel, but inevitably ends up doing it again. She would be upset if she found out, but it allows both of us to enjoy the show the way we both want to. Story 3. Sometimes I watch shows alone because I want to enjoy things without each scene or line having a 75% chance of being followed by sarcasm or a joke. I love her humor, but sometimes it detracts from things I find sentimental or sad. I want to feel things too. Story 4. She likes to poke fun at me for taking so long for us to start officially dating after being friends, then more than friends for a while. I just smile and nod and go with it, but she was suicidal for a lot of our early time together, and I was all she really had. There were lots of late-night drives to her house to talk her down. Knowing that she might die if I ended things was a massive weight on me, and it took more than a year for me to be confident that I made the choice to get serious with her because I love her and not because I didn't want her to die. I see no reason why she needs to know this because she would completely doubt that I truly love her. Story 5. Sometimes I go to the movies without my wife because I am a huge movie buff and fan of the theater experience. She cannot stand still for the movie long enough to pay attention. I get the big popcorn tub and soda with ice cream to top it off. This is the most upvotes I've had. Thank you so much to everyone who has upvoted this post. I love my wife very much. Aloha. Story 6. I think her dad wants to die, but his strong Catholic faith will not let him. And frankly, I would help him. He's miserable, and he makes everyone else miserable. He's on the fast track to palliative care. He's had a very full life, and I only got to see the very end of it, when he had already lost control of half his brain and most of his body. He does not deserve to fade like this. If I am right, and I am sure I am, he's the poster child for euthanasia. I'd never tell her this. Story 7. I like these threads because on one side it's, I leave a flower by the door every time I'm gone for the day, and she doesn't know it's me. And on the other it's, I'm the one who murdered your mother because she was an old hag and I swear to God if you become her I'll kill you too. Story 8. My children and I have a more pleasant weekend when she goes away. It's like a blanket of calm envelopes us. And we have a great time. She knows it, but she doesn't fully realize it. We miss her and all, but when she comes home, it's like the kids start to argue with each other, and the baby cries a little bit more. I get a little bit annoyed. I hide it though, but we had a lovely weekend and now it's over. Just to be clear, I am a dad who is home at 4 o'clock every single workday, and I am involved with my kids. I cook all our meals and am as much of a presence in our house as she is. I also sleep with the baby every night because that is what works best for us. So the kids are most likely not very insecure with me. Story 9. So where we live, you can write your name and number on milk cartons and throw it with the rest of the paper trash for recycling. You win money if your carton gets pulled. My wife is really into it and makes sure to write her name and number on everyone. And if I'm the one to throw one, I write her name and number for her, and she is thankful for it. Now, I don't recall what she did, but it had me really annoyed at her. I had finished a carton of milk, cleaned it out, and folded it for disposal. This is probably the most petty thing I've ever done in our relationship. As a way to get back at her, I wrote my name and my number instead of hers. I'm taking it to the grave. Wow! Thank you for the gift, and thank you all for the awards. I didn't expect my silly little story of my pettiness to be my most upvoted and awarded Reddit interaction. Story 10. She was the first person I ever slept with. Potentially, it wouldn't end the relationship on its own, but it would bring up a lot of other awkward questions about other things I lied about when we first got together. Story 11. Honestly, I'm such a jealous guy. I am working on it with my therapist, but I'm jealous to the point where when she's at work, my brain tells me that she's actually out doing something with someone. Luckily, my therapist has taught me how to deal with those thoughts, though. Story 12. Nothing. I just want my girlfriend to think I'm adding something to the thread. I told her the question, and now she's trying not to be bothered, but I can tell she's curious. Wow, did not expect this blowing up, but I can't thank you all enough. You made her way more curious about it. We were running errands, and I had no idea it was blowing up. I keep my phone on my vent, and she noticed some Reddit notifications popping up frequently and started getting curious. She didn't take me seriously until she noticed those. Then I opened it and looked at her. It has over 1,000 upvotes, so I had to show her, and she just said I'm dumb, and that's kind of sweet too. I thought it was hilarious, to be honest. Story 13. How much money I spent restoring my 1969 Camaro. She knows it was a lot, but has no idea how much. To be fair, the majority of it was paid for with cash I had before we were married. But it's a lot. Story 14. I thought about reading some of these comments to my wife. Then I realized it would be a trap, and she would ask, well, what's your secret? I choose life. Story 15. Grocery store. Sometimes I will intentionally forget an item that we need the next day, like bananas. The only reason I like to go for drives after dark by myself is to listen to old school Eminem and walk around an empty grocery store. It's my secret me time. She doesn't know how to have a me time. She just wants to always be with the kids and me. I respect that and love her for it. Story 16. She has certain food allergies. Sometimes I will run out to the store to get something to use while making dinner. I'll drive through somewhere she cannot eat, and I'll eat whatever it is on my way home. Story 17. She visits her family across the country twice a year for a full week. I book that same time off work and don't tell her. I just spend the time getting drunk and high and play video games. It's literally the only time I can relax. Story 18. That I will say I'm going to be a few minutes late for my job, but in reality, I want to go get fast food but not spend $40 getting it for the family. I eat it all before I get home and then dispose of the evidence. Story 19. If I see a spider in the bedroom and she doesn't see it, I didn't see a spider. I'm not afraid of them. In fact, they don't bother me at all. To me, they're like brother bugs. Hey pal, I'm just going to eat some other bugs. Don't get up. So I don't get up. She is terrified of spiders. She would leave me if she found out I chill with my 8-legged friends when she's sleeping. Story 20. Every time we're having dinner and they get up to go to the bathroom, I steal a bite of food off their plate. Pretty much every time. And they know my username, so babe, if you ever see this, please forgive me. I love you so much. Story 21. I won the lottery 5 years ago and took the monthly sum, which auto-drafts into a separate account. Whenever we need to make big purchases, I tell her I'm just taking out a loan. I'm afraid if I tell her how much I won, it will destroy our marriage, and I fear for the safety of our children if her family finds out I'm wealthy. Story 22. That she is partly to blame for why I have lost interest in my hobbies. I used to have hobbies that I enjoyed doing. Then came the question of why I am spending money on that stuff, while at the same time telling me to go do them. You can't have both worlds. Story 23. When she is out of town, I let our Bernese mountain dog jump on her side of the bed, and we eat popcorn together while watching old 1980s classics like Turner and Hooch. He's not supposed to be on the bed, and I'm not supposed to eat in bed. We are rebels. Story 24. We knew each other for a long time but never had deeper contact. When we started dating, it was a bit out of the blue. She randomly asked if I would like to have a drink with her, which had never happened before, and things developed really fast. But I guess neither of us wanted that. I was still missing my ex. She was fleeing from her parents' home and some bad decisions she made. Had I known all the things that were actually going on in her life, I would never have agreed to meet her. I'm pretty sure that at the beginning, I was just the next best person to help her out, and that was reason enough for her to act like she was in love and have sex with me, which still weirds me out to some extent. I guess it's not really a big secret. It's just something neither of us really wants to talk about because it would hurt both of us so much. She knows I know all this, and she knows that I never initially wanted a relationship, which is part of the reason she did anything in her power to convince me otherwise, as I was the last straw she had, considering all the abusive people she met before me and how I always treated her nicely. Although this all sounds pretty dark and messed up, it worked out for us, and we are happy with each other. There is no need to clarify each other's intentions for the start of the relationship. It's long ago, and the problems we had back then no longer exist, and we both fell in love with each other over time anyway. Story 25. Post-traumatic stress disorder, the demons and nightmares from being in the army. I've learned to hide them well and to fake that I'm okay. I learned the hard way that being vulnerable with somebody who claims to love me but actually used those things against me is something I'll never do again. Story 26. My net worth. Relationships can be risky when you're trying to protect a large amount of money. I drive a Tacoma and live in a little two-bedroom home and don't spend much because I don't really want much. I like to work and I like a simple life. I want to find a woman who feels the same way. Telling someone you're dating that you have the means to change their lives changes how they see you. You're not a prospective partner anymore, you're a meal ticket. I realized this after my college girlfriend and I broke up after way too long unhappy together. She finally admitted that she didn't want to leave because I could give her a life she could never afford herself. Ever since then, I keep it hidden. I want it to be a great surprise to my future wife, not a carrot on a stick. Story 27. I was waiting for her to graduate, start working, and make enough to be on her own to see if she would get better or worse as a partner. There were nights I did not want to go home after work myself, and she seemed to think I should love to rush home to be berated to do things like clean up the dishes after her. Well, she makes enough. 5.5 months ago, I said, yes, let's split. 2023 is going to be a really good year for me, ladies and gentlemen. 2022 should have been better, but long COVID and other issues. Certainly ending better. Story 28. Sounds cliche, but nothing. We all have our little fibs and lies of omission, but never, ever keep secrets that could have lasting consequences. If she would be legitimately upset to find out about it, to the point where it could actually harm your relationship, then you shouldn't be keeping it from her. If you screwed up, the lie might actually be worse than the offense. And honesty goes a long way if you are asking for forgiveness. My wife told me something early on in our relationship that I've never forgotten. There are very few mistakes I think can't be forgiven, but don't ever let me catch you lying. For her, mistakes are often just that, accidents or poor decisions made in the moment. Lies are intentional and disrespectful. Story 29. That I hate how dismissive she has been about my mental health. To be honest, I think I am on antidepressants because of her. She refused to admit it is even a thing in the real world, let alone that I have an actual problem, but it is all for the kids, so I keep on pretending I still love her. Story 30. That a few months back, she got really drunk, told me I was worthless, and that the worst mistake she made was getting back together with me 10 years ago. Then she told me I wasn't a real man, goaded me into having sex with her, then told me I'd raped her. She just kept asking how it felt to be a rapist and that she cried herself to sleep every night because she can't stand being with me. The day-to-day stuff between us is nothing like this either, so it was completely out of left field for me. This is what happens when you stay because of your kids. Work your ass off, have no money to spend, constantly get told off, and in the end, everyone just assumes you're the problem if she isn't happy. I probably won't do anything about it because I generally suck at standing up for myself, and I feel I'm just in too deep at this point. I'm pretty much resigned to just dying young if I'm lucky. I'm only posting in the hopes that someone reads this and chooses to break the cycle in their own lives. Story 31. Her heavy anxiety is draining me and pushing me away. It's so frequent now I can't always be the support she needs, and then I'm the bad guy for being distant during the second panic attack that day, after 6 years of it. Compassion fatigue is real. Story 32. I started smoking marijuana on my day off, legal where I am, for the whole day alone with no responsibilities whatsoever. I began at the beginning of 2020 as a way to cope with the massive amount of pressure, stress, and risk I was under. My job is essential for society to function and has high risk. Every weekend that I am alone, I take it as me time. I have never told her. She doesn't know. I use a vaporizer so there is no smell and it's easy to hide. I don't know what she would do if she found out, but I do know she is not in favor of marijuana. Story 33. That she and, more importantly, her nosy, I made my marriage perfect and trained my man to be the husband I deserve. And you could learn more than a thing or two about what a relationship takes to work on this level. Mother have no idea that her perfectly trained husband, my father-in-law, is one of the creepiest womanizing men the minute she isn't physically looking at him. To the point, it makes me uncomfortable to watch him work his magic. I've caught him on 3 different occasions with prostitutes at work. He offered me cash to buy my silence. I told him to keep the money. His secret is safe with me as I didn't see a thing. I get great enjoyment out of being lectured by her mother on the perfect marriage, while knowing how many times I've walked into the office and caught him and his hairy back engaging with a street worker. The man is reckless. He's legitimately hurt his back to the point of immobility at least 10 times in 3 years. Every time it happens, he's at work. And the excuses range from being swooped by a magpie to slipping on a piece of birthday cake, and even being knocked over in the street by a passing cycling race he didn't notice. All truthful excuses he's used for putting his back out. Please, oh wise mother-in-law, lecture me and talk down to me more on how to achieve a love like yours.